Welcome back, my friends. Another try and fly. This time we're looking at a study level, meaning a bit more complicated airplane. And it is the Airfoillabs Kingair 350. And yeah, you would probably say now, okay, this is out for quite some time. Why are you doing this now? It's as simple as I got it when it was slightly cheaper during a sale, and I also had no time to really study this aircraft and install it and try it out. So here we go. We're doing this today, and little disclaimer or whatever you want to call that. And I have to do this now in every try and fly so that there is no doubt at what this is. This is not a tutorial. This is not something that will tell you everything there is to know about this aircraft from an expert. Yeah, I'm a simmer. I do this in my very little spare time, and therefore I'm going to make a lot of mistakes, most likely. I usually don't read the manuals. In this case, it is slightly different. And if you don't like this kind of video, if you don't like me just kind of messing around and seeing how far I get with an aircraft without knowing too much about it, you might not be right in this video. There are others out there, good tutorials and stuff. So yeah, you probably feel more at home at these channels, but there you go. I have told you. Anyway, why have I got the manual up? Quite unusual for a try and fly. Yes, this is an unusual aircraft. I have to say though, I did my first kind of try and fly, and I actually got on quite well with it. It is not difficult to get it flying. What is a bit more difficult and needs a little bit of reading is all the inbuilt features and things that they have done, and it is quite a lot they have done. Also the viewing system. So there are some things that if you're not used to them, first you kind of have a question mark on, and it takes some time before you figure out how this works. So with this aircraft, it makes sense to browse through the manual. The thing with the manual is it isn't that big. So I think they have managed to create a manual that is short enough to not get a boring exercise of going through hundreds of pages. A lot is also pages that you can skip, really, because they're not that important. But there are some pages there you might have to have a look at before you jump into this aircraft, just to ensure that you're not surprised by things that they have. And they have a lot, and it's nice. It's nice stuff. I can tell you already, I quite like it. I did a first very basic flight, and I got on quite well with it. But let me go through this manual in a very quick way so that you know what it's all about. As you can see here, it's about the product. You can skip that part. Hardware and software requirements, download, installation. You should look at that before you start to install. And the thing is, the manual does not come with the aircraft. It actually has to be downloaded from the store pages, where you get also the so-called installer. And that's actually the first thing I'm going to jump into, because I'm not going to bore you with all this here. The important thing is that in order to install this product, I think you can get still a sort of classic zip, if I'm right. But actually what they do now is they have this so-called product manager. And if you have more than one Airfoillabs product, you do not need to download it every time. I did, because I have the Cessna as well. And I thought it's different programs. No, it's not. It's one program. It's the product manager. And it allows you to select your explain folder and then go through the products that are available. You can select the ones that you have purchased, and you can have this program to install it for you. You have a quick, see this here, this XJet plugin, for example. This is actually a plugin that needs to be installed. Yet another plugin. And one that I have to turn off if I don't fly Airfoillabs. Yeah, and it also does update for you. So it kind of manages the Airfoillabs products. And you can see here the Cessna, and there is also the Kingair, although we can't see the Kingair right here. These are probably pictures from before the Kingair. Anyway, that's the way they do it now. Make sure that you do not deactivate the XJet plugin that you will find after the installation. I did, because I didn't know what it was. I forgot actually that it could be for the Kingair, and your Kingair will not work without this plugin. So make sure that it is activated in your resources plugins folder. So yeah, that's that. You can go through this. It's actually quite easy. It's not difficult to install. You can see how it sets up a path, and you need to provide the license key, obviously, when you install a product via this manager. So you must have purchased and got your key. Right, that's it. The user interface. Yeah, we will see this in a moment. The first time I saw this popping up, it took me a second to understand what this is, but yeah, it's an innovative new way of doing menus in Explain. Quite interesting. Good thing is it disappears completely, so you do not have some ugly logo or C or A or something like that always on your screen, which for people like me is always bad. There are two other click spots. Down here is the camera menu trigger and the aircraft handbook trigger. I'm going to show you those as well. If you get too close to the left side of your screen, this thing will pop up. Can be sometimes a little bit, yeah, can be a bit of a nuisance in some stages, but all in all, I think this is not a bad way of doing it, although it took me a moment to get used to it. You can see there's a lot of individual menu items, and you do not only have these kind of round buttons, because that's basically what they are. There are also 2D panels. There are a lot of 2D panels. There are 2D panels for your main displays, which is, I think, quite nice. And then there are these special settings and other service pop-ups. And then there's a pop-up for the autopilot. There is a pop-up. This is actually quite nice, I think. It's quite a good idea for the whole throttle, gear, trim, everything you need to kind of flaps, you know, quite comprehensive. They're not all on the same place in the panel, in the 3D panel. This, for example, is on the yoke, I think. But they have put it in here in order to allow you to easily access everything that is important around the whole engine control in one 2D pop-up. It's actually really, really well done. And this is your EHI. The only thing with this is, unfortunately, altitude and speed aren't shown. And I haven't really seen a pop-up for that. That's the only thing that's a little bit... Yeah, it would have been great to have that too, like we've seen on the prepared quality wings 146, where you can actually pop up that instrument. That was, for me, this one of the most practical things that you can have, because you can be looking outside the cockpit and you have all the basic information: speed, altitude, and attitude. Well, anyway, it's not there. But still, it is quite good. This is the kind of weather radar, and they also put in the course stuff here. And this is the EHSI, as it's called, which is basically the navigation instrument. And then there's something here for the cabin pressure. I'm pretty sure this is not unimportant, because this thing can fly high. And it might get a little bit rough if you don't have that right. This is the weight and balance menu. Here you can see the usual thing, which is also in the Cessna. So it shows you if you are in the constraints of your weight and balance, of your CG and so all that, center of gravity. You can set things. You can switch, by the way, to oh no, that was the Airfoillabs Cessna. Not sure actually if you can switch to power. Ah, there it is. There it is. Select units. There it is. Kilogram. Yeah, you can switch to kilogram if you're European like me. Then there's a view menu, which is quite well done too, although it causes a little bit of issues with the way I do my views, which I'm going to show you in a moment. There is also a walk around functionality, and I haven't actually done all this here yet. Basically, you could actually walk forward, backwards, crouch and all that, and you could really walk around the aircraft. I'm not going to use that, but it is possible to do that. But you need to make sure that you have set up your options. How to control your camera in internal mode. You can use camera menu aircraft, and then you can use simulated walk functionality. So you see the options. There is an aircraft handbook, which is an interactive handbook. It will open up, and it has, first of all, gives you all the sizes. Then it gives you, let's say, the speed page here, the limits. You can see all of these here, like where is the maximum flag extend speed on the approach is 202. You need to be below that, really. Flaps up speed is 94. Flaps approach 93. So, and here's the cruise climb. You can see that if we are on flight level 200, like we would be flying, our cruise climb would be at 140 indicated airspeed. That's the climb, not the cruise. Yeah. The cruise can be quite a bit higher. For example, maximum operating speed at 21,000 feet is 263. Above 21,000 to 35, something between 263 or Mach 0.058 Mach. The 194 is lower because the higher you get, the lower the indicated airspeed will show. So this thing can fly pretty fast and pretty high. Okay. Then there is a list of checklists. That's the content page, as they call that. If you call up a checklist, now that'll be an interesting one. I haven't tried that yet. Yeah, there is actually an automated checklist. Very well done. You don't need X checklister in that particular case, because it actually does that for you here and in quite a visual way. And here you can even give some preferences of how these checklists should be shown and should be worked through. And there's a performance page. That's the last one, the fourth one, where you can enter some values and then it can calculate stuff for you. All right. The same for the landing and for the takeoff separate. It gives you then your V speeds, and it gives you also the reference speed for the approach and the flap limits and all that. Very nice, very well done. Quite like it. I haven't tried that yet, but that sounds one of the really interesting things. So this is the throttle quadrant thing I was telling you about. We're going to look at. Then there's the prop levers. There's an engine limitations. It gives you, again, some hints on how to use that. For example, starting. Operating condition is starting. Max ITT 1000. You should not exceed the ITT of 1000 when you're starting up the engine. Otherwise, you might have detrimental effects to your engine and oil pressure and so on. Maximum oil temperature in the minus is minus 40. Then here's the idle, which is at about 750 ITT, which is prop at about 1050. This is the minimum prop setting. Then takeoff maximum and so on. Most of these are flown in 1700, which is full RPM. Some of them are at lower or higher even. Yeah. And then there's this governor. I haven't quite understood what it does yet. Alpha when airborne is actually a setting. We're going to look at that as well. And it allows you to, it would actually limit the moving of the throttle lever if you have a joystick for it beyond the alpha, which is basically the flight mode. Because in some aircraft, you go into beta while you're in the air, which is, yeah, it's not really realistic to do that. Yeah, you can use joysticks for it. I have in Kingair. Yeah, well, here you see the middle console. It's all the radios. And Pilot's radio, magnetic inter. This is the EHSIs I told you about. There are some settings that you can apply. This is the co-pilot side, by the way, which is a more restricted, not so fancy equipment here. But yeah, it's the co-pilot. It's the pilot on the left who's doing this. This is actually the autopilot view, including a standard X-plane navigation FMC. Okay, so I don't think it has fancy navigation features. It gives you the possibility, though, to load your flight plan and to have sits and stars, which I think in this context is more than enough. It probably, but also means, as far as I can tell, that you have the more or less default autopilot of X-plane, which means that at some areas in my flight plan, in my special Try&Fly flight plan, we probably will see what every standard X-plane aircraft is doing. We shall see. Yeah, avionics master. Go through these. I'm not going to go through the details now. I just wanted to show you. We are almost through. There's a little bit of explanation what you can see here on the EHSI as well. Here's again the explanation. I might actually call this up if I have difficulties understanding something later. This is the MFD. It's a very basic thing. It's not the realistic MFD. Here, let's say the study level and realism come a little bit to a halt. But what they put in here is the weather radar, obviously, and you can overimpose this route here, which is the unreadable as usual. That's the only unfortunate thing. They use the standard display, which is, as you can see on this picture, pretty useless when it comes to reading the names of the waypoints. But your flight plan is displayed with the nice magenta lines as usual, your heading and so on. So helpful, because the EHSI does not give you a display like this. Therefore, you use this MFD in order to see where you are in regards to your route. And then there are some settings here, for example, heading up mode, nav. When you click on nav, heading up or north up, that's the way you present the flight plan. And also if it's radar only, then they would turn off the flight plan mode. Here you see some pictures of how that looks. This is the test mode of the weather radar. And here we see heading up mode, radar only mode. And this is north up mode, which is a bit like the plan mode in many aircraft. That's the autopilot modes. By the way, this is the autopilot disengage. There is actually a separate command. I haven't yet programmed it. I should do that though. Put it on my yoke. And there's also a autopilot only mode. What does that mean? If no lateral or vertical mode is selected, the autopilot will maintain present roll and pitch. Activating the pitch sync and CVS. Aha, that's control wheel steering. So if you press that button, you probably need to define a key for that. You can actually change the attitude, and then the autopilot will take over once you let that button go. There's also a go-around mode and all that. I'm not going to use that, most likely. Here's your altitude setting. It's actually the kind of of autopilot where you need to, and that's important, it's the pre-select mode. Select. If you don't click this, the autopilot will not stop to climb or descend. Here are some climb mode, provides transition from previously selected vertical mode to pre-programmed vertical climb profile. I'm not sure if that is linked to the FMC or whatever, but it's an interesting thing here. So at 5,000 feet, it would use indicated airspeed of 170. At 27, it would use 130. That's because indicated airspeed tends to get lower the higher you get, although you have the same ground speed. Here's a go-around mode. It actually turns off the autopilot. Be careful. And then you follow the flight directives by trimming and using the aileron. And that's it. That's the documentation, 64 pages. So it's not too bad to get through this. And I think you get, let's say, the gist of things. I'm pretty sure we're going to miss something, but yeah, let's go into the simulator and have a look. Now, chances are that this is going to become a slightly longer try and fly. So very good chance that I'm going to split it up in 2 parts, which I think is a good way of allowing people also to jump if they're not interested in the ground part of it, if they're more interested in how we fly it. I'm also going to do what I did for the quality wings, and that is I'm going to go through the whole video. That's why this takes a bit of time, and I will find the interesting time points where we have a specific subject here, and I will put the time in the description so that you could jump to areas where you are more interested in. Right, so nice one. I chose the only German livery. DQ'd ADAC is kind of an ambulance medevac kind of airplane, and I'm pretty sure that exists or existed. I'm not sure if it's still in use with ADAC. Could well be though. And yeah, very nice. So let's unpause the simulator and let's go through this here. So this is, yeah, as I say, I first looked a bit surprised when this popped up all over the place, but it's actually not bad. First of all, let's go through one by one. The first one is your states. So it has a cold and dark state, which we are in right now. There's a before start stage, a before taxi stage, and a before takeoff stage. So depending on how quickly you want to get flying with this aircraft, the states are such that you could actually be up and flying in minutes after you started the simulator by just doing this and maybe entering a flight plan. Done. That is possible. I did that for testing. Okay, so quite a nice feature, and it saves you from having to go through all the checklist stuff. You don't have to if you don't want to. That's the good thing. It's not the kind of complex aircraft that forces you to do all this in order to be successful. I think they've given us the option here to really get in there quickly. 2D panels. Yeah, I talked about them. Here's the autopilot. This is the yaw damper. No, actually it's not. Is it not yaw? That's not yaw damper. Co-pilot. That's the thing for the autopilot and the co-pilot. Okay. So they mix co-pilot. They mix autopilot and EFIS or EHSI settings. There are no autopilot things here. By the way, you can actually externalize this or drag this. Okay, make it smaller or bigger if it's too much screen taken away from it. Really well done. This is this really, really very practical thing for the throttles. Then we have this slightly a little bit on the big side panel, but that's a good thing. I can make it small. Okay. Then we have the 3 displays, the EADI, which is in a bit of the way here, EHSI, which are all dark now because we haven't got electricity supplied yet. Next is this here. So one thing you can do first of all is you can get an external power. You hear it, you don't see it. Well, I haven't seen it. It's a kind of microscopic. Oh no, there it is. I was always looking on the other side of the aircraft. That's why I didn't see it. It's on the right side. I was always looking at the left side. So here it is, yeah. And making noise. Then you can actually order a fuel truck to be put here. There's a little downside to this. While the fuel truck is there, you will have difficulties boarding the plane. Okay, so let's take that one away. These are all these protections and so on. Then there's the chocks and there's the tie downs. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take away these two, but I leave the chocks here for the moment. You can open the door And then there's this interesting thing, which I haven't yet. This is probably for maintenance. I'm not sure what. Yeah, I suppose that must be for maintenance. These stairs. I'm not sure what I need them for in normal operations. So, and here's the door open now, and we are in theory able to walk in. Now, if I would have programmed that walk mode, I'm not going to do this because I don't really use it. It's not for me. So normally, if you have the right keys, you could now walk kind of into the plane. You use the crouch command in order to get into the door. But, well, you know. Now, there's the weight and balance. There are actually 4 predefined, completely full, 3/4, half, and 1/4. Or you go here and you change to kilograms, for example. And then you can kind of can still use this kind of so this is half, so why don't we fill it up? So this is 500 something, 508 liters. There is yeah, 408. So what now? It's kilograms. So this is liters, this is kilograms. Then you could add some more weight, suppose. Or is this also? This is also a fuel tank. So if we do full, there we go. We get all our AUX tanks and everything filled. I think we should be fine with 1/4 because we're not flying that far. And here's also the weight. I can crew only, or I kind of fill things up with passengers. So because this is a test flight, we are not going to have passengers. I put it on crew only, which makes us relatively light. We are inside this area here, so we are fine also from the center of gravity. Here's the gross weight, and here's all the numbers again. The empty weight is 4,341 kilogram, and the total weight at the moment is 4.9 tons, or 4.973 kilograms. Total fuel is 507. Or 409 kilograms, and they show you here the maximum numbers, how much you can put in order to not overload the plane. If you press apply, it's done. And as I say, you could also use predefined. Now settings aren't that many. So basically, remember aircraft state. That's interesting because it kind of remembers where you left off with your airplane the last time. Probably also from the hours and all that. And the switch positions, unless you use one of them states to change that. Okay, so you could actually fly, leave the aircraft in a specific position, and then go. So show arcade 2D panels. Actually, I haven't quite understood what that is. What I've seen is some weird instrument showing up in some of the views. That could be it. Clickable regions, hide when still. Show always. That is probably at the beginning. You could turn this on so that you could see where all the clickable regions are. I have this hide when still. So when we're not moving the mouse, I suppose, does that mean? I turned off passengers and pilots. I use this alpha when airborne because that prevents the joystick from bringing this thing into the beta range during flight. And I leave all the sounds on, and also there are some call-outs from the co-pilot kind of and the pilots. That's it. There isn't much more you can set here. And then there's the possibility to load or save your own situations. So you can do save, and you can call it test, save. Okay, and when you do load, it will actually load that situation, and it will bring the airplane into the mode that it was in when you saved it. The only thing is that the external stuff has disappeared. At least it got... Oh no, it put me on pause. Hang on. But I don't think we do have the... Oh, no, no, it is there. There it is. Okay. As you can see, this was my first situation I saved. So that's interesting. Let's see. We're going to close the door. And I'm going to load the situation test. And you can see the door is open. Very nice. Very nice. I think it might also save the position, but yeah, I'll find out at some later stage. Okay, so down here is this special aircraft handbook that I told you about. It shows you the limits, okay, very nicely. But there's no interactivity here. You could actually go to the settings menu, the camera focus, checklist automatically focus the camera to the area of interest. That's a very interesting thing. Checklist flow is manual, semi-automatic or automatic. Automatic means perform the actions required by the checklist in advance to the next item until the checklist is completed. So that is maybe for beginners. Show checklist hints, it will show them, and checklist items are spoken. Yeah, or maybe even the hints. We will leave the hints off because I think that would be a bit too much. So, pre-flight inspection. I can say start the checklist.
External power.
And
Off reset. Left engine intake and propeller exhaust covers. Remove. Left wing air intake cover. Remove. Left pitot cover. Remove. Right pitot cover. Remove.
yeah,
Right wing air intake cover. Remove. Right engine intake and propeller exhaust covers.
by the way, you can stop this anytime, right? So I will let this run through now.
Remove. GPU. Connect. GPU panel. Start and on. Control locks. Remove. Parking brake.
So with some of these things, you need to actually do something. Unfortunately, the view here is not that well done. So here's the parking brake.
Set. Right sidewall circuit breaker panel.
And I think I haven't removed the control
Check.
lock, so I need to do that.
Alternate static air switch. Guarded normal. Copilot's right subpanel. Check. Copilot's instrument panel. Check. Copilot's left subpanel switches.
Set all switches to off. Okay. So let's see which ones are not off. Okay, I think they're off. Are they not? They all look off anyway.
Set. Center pedestal.
Check working force, set all switches to off or normal position. Oxygen control handle should be pushed in. Oxygen? Okay, it's probably these here. Okay.
Check. Alternate gear extension handle. Stowed. Trim controls. Set 0. Power quadrant. Set. Center instrument panel and glare shield. Check.
So down here
Overhead panel.
at the bottom you see the instructions. Overhead panel check. Verify that it is present. 28 volts, yeah. And external power, select that the battery has minimum. Okay, so the question is, do we actually have external power? Because I think it has removed it. No, we have. And is it selected? Confirm, Copilot. I'm a bit confused. Oh yeah, external power 28 volts. So external power is 28 volt.
Check. External power. 28 volts. Battery.
20 volt minimum. I guess I get this by going
20 volts minimum.
Yeah.
Pilot's instrument panel. Check. Pilot's right subpanel switches.
So they should
Set.
all be off, yeah.
Pilot's left subpanel switches. Set. Fuel panel switches. Set. Left sidewall circuit breaker panel. Check in. Battery switch. Confirm off. Battery bus switch.
Where's that battery switch? Battery bus switch, emergency, off. Bus.
Emergency off. Battery bus switch.
Rotate the voltmeter, bus select, switch to each position, verify that the voltmeter indicates 0. That's the thing up here, I think. Unfortunately, these things are gone very quickly. So it's a little bit normal.
Normal. Battery switch.
On, rotate the voltmeter bus, battery switch on. So where is the battery switch? Hang on. Auto feather, avionics power, external power. I guess it's here. On. On.
Gen ties switch.
The manual, that could be these here. Manual close, no.
Manual close. External power switch.
Power switch on, observe, man ties close, annunciator extinguished. There's an that's here. Yeah, I think that one is extinguished. Still not sure. External power switch on. Do we actually have external power? I think we do, yeah? Right. So, still trying to figure out what that means now. External power switch on. Yeah, I think I have it on.
On. Bus sense switch.
There's only these two. Okay. Bus sense switch. Bus. Buzzy. Here. Bus sense test. And then reset normal.
Test. Bus sense switch. Reset normal.
Gen ties.
Gen ties switch.
Open. I think that's open. It's hard to read. Gen left and right. Hang on. Gen tie switch. No, there's only one. And then normal. Good, okay.
Open. Gen tie switch. Normal. Inverter switches.
So first, yeah, they're off. Then bus tie. Bus transfer, then in the on position, then in the off position, and then the same for this, off. Oh yeah, okay. Bus transfer, on, off.
On. Number 1 inverter. Off.
Yeah, and we should have probably, that's a little bit not so practical because they kind
Bus
of
transfer.
tell you to look at the
Number 1 inverter. On. Number 2 inverter. Off. Number 2 inverter. Bus transfer. Number 2 inverter. On. Avionics switch. On.
So
EFIS power switches.
So where are those EFIS power? These here.
On. Overhead panel master panel lights. As required.
We don't need them now.
Emergency lights. As required. No smoking. Fasten seatbelt switch.
We turn them on. Is that on now? No, that's off. Or what?
On. Annunciators.
I think that's that one.
Fuel quantity.
So, yeah, is checked. I think it wants me to...
Check main auxiliary test. Fuel firewall valves.
There's a lot of text and it disappears relatively quickly. Presenting the engine firewall, push close, will close the shut-off valve, blah, 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 extinguish lights. You know what?
Close.
I don't want to do everything
Boost
now.
Pumps.
Boost pumps on boost pumps, which are now done by pump. Aux transfer pump. Fuel pressure annunciator is that the pumps?
On. Fuel pressure annunciators.
Yeah.
Illuminated. Fuel firewall valves.
I should have probably turned them on both.
Open. Fuel pressure annunciators.
They're not extinguished because we haven't yet. Another way to get here. Okay. So let's see. Override. It's a little bit Is that the pumps? Let's see. Standby pump.
Extinguished. Boost pumps. Off.
That are the boost pumps, the standby
Fuel
pumps.
pressure annunciators. Illuminated.
Okay.
Crossfeed switch.
To
alternate left and right.
Alternate.
Crossfeed annunciator.
On each position. Okay, crossfeed. Yeah, we haven't yet turned it on. So there should be some kind of crossfeed. Fuel crossfeed green. There it is.
On in each position. Fuel pressure annunciators.
Extinguished in each position. That's a little bit not so practical.
Extinguished in each position. Crossfeed switch.
Off.
Off. Auxiliary fuel quantity. Fuel low level test. Oxygen pressure. Check. Oxygen mask. Remove. Oxygen mask, oxygen flow. Check.
I clicked on this here.
Oxygen mask.
Stow.
Stowed. Gear handle lights. Test. Hydraulic fluid sensor button.
Hydraulic fuel sensor button. Hydraulic fluid. Ice protection lights. Where is that? Pitot, stall warning, defrost. Heh. Push and hold. Down, lock. Landing gear. It was covered by the checklist. Push and hold.
Push and hold. Flap indicator. 0. Landing gear warning.
If you say so. Landing gear warning test. Test. Carbon altitude, stall warning, overspeed, window, event, cabin air. Landing gear. Where is that landing gear warning? Wouldn't that not be on the other side? You would think. Stall warning, overspeed warning, carbon altitude, silence, window defog, vent blower, bleed air valve, air blower, electric heat, engine fire test, cabin air. I don't think this is the right. But maybe it is. I have no idea where that is. I'm probably blind. Silence, carbon altitude, vent blower. Ach you.
Test. Stall warning.
Into the test mode, which is
Test. Overspeed warning. Test. Cabin differential pressure warning.
Oh, come on. Again, we have... explain. Cabin differential... Yeah, was that not... wind differential test. Oh, come on.
Test.
There's not always arrows showing.
Cabin altitude warning. Test and silence. Engine fire detection.
Engine fire detection. Test.
Test. Engine fire extinguisher. Test.
Yeah, there should have been some
Pitch trim
annunciators, but
switch.
that's now a little bit... It's not that practical when you have to look at the status and all that. Pitch trim switch off on. Pitch trim switch off.
Off on.
Off on.
Pilot's trim switches.
Pilot's trim switches. Where are they? Trim. Trimmy trim. Landing gear. Beacon lights. So why are you pointing me to this here? Auto feather, engine anti-ice, ignition, Engine ignition inverters. Pilot's trim switch. Ah!
Activate. Trim disconnect switch.
Is that there? Nope. That there?
Push.
Ah.
Pitch trim switch.
Note, pitch trim switch off on. Pitch trim switch off on.
Off on. Manual pitch trim.
In the takeoff position.
Takeoff position. Yaw damp button.
Yaw damper button. Yaw damper button. Where is that? There.
Engage. Rudder boost switch.
Rudder boost switch. Yaw control. And then release.
Yaw control test and release. Rudder boost, yaw control test switch.
Is that
Rudder boost. Control yoke. Relax.
yeah?
Autopilot button.
Engage.
Electric pitch trim.
Actuate.
Actuate. Control yoke. Center. Autopilot button.
Engage.
Engage. Turn knob.
Left and right, that's probably this one here.
Left and right. Turn knob. Center detent. Heading mode.
Engage. Heading mode. Heading. Here. No, that's heading.
Engage. Heading control knob.
Heading control knob. Oh yeah. Push sync. Oh. Heading control knob. Push sync. Where's that? Heading control. Must be one of those, wouldn't it? I-20. That's up and down. To be honest, I have no idea where that is.
Push sync. Heading control.
Heading control is probably this here. Left and right.
Left and right. Yoke control wheel sync button.
Yoke control. CVS sync button, I think is it that there?
Push and release.
Yeah.
Go around button.
The go around button push. I thought that was on the yoke and not here. I thought that was somewhere down here. Was it not? Maybe not. I think I read this wrong in the documentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call up that display and I'm going to
push. Autopilot button.
Engage again.
Engage. Autopilot trim disconnect. Push momentarily.
I know.
Autopilot test button. Push.
Pilot test button.
Pitot fuel vent. Stall warning heat switches.
No, what? Pitot fuel vent stall warning heat switches. Pitot fuel vent stall warning heat switches. Stall warning
On. Pilot and co-pilot windshield heat switches.
Check each position.
Check each position. Engine anti-ice actuator switches. Standby.
Standby, yeah.
Engine anti-ice switches. On. Engine anti-ice switches. Off.
Yeah, and you would normally now check the
Engine
lights, which I
anti-ice
can't see.
actuator switches. Main. Pitot fuel vent stall warning heat switches.
Pitot fuel vent stall, all off again.
Off. Trim controls. Set. Flaps. Full down. External light switches.
On.
On. Cockpit fire extinguisher. Check pressure. Flight manual.
Well, we're in
Check.
it.
Cabin light test.
Check vision in the cabin. Yeah, it's okay.
Bright, dim, off. No smoking. Fasten seatbelt switch.
Off. Where's the cabin seat belt? Instrument lights on. Pitot.
No smoking. Fasten seat belts. Fasten seat belts off. Documents. Check. Forward emergency exit sign. Test and reset. Tray
It's
tables.
getting a little bit long now, if you ask me.
Stowed. Afterward emergency exit sign.
You can actually test it.
Test and reset. Cabin fire extinguisher.
It's checked.
Check pressure. Baggage area.
It's secure.
Secure. Baggage light.
To be honest, this is
As
starting
required.
to get a little bit too much.
Left side cabin windows.
Oh God.
Check. Flaps. Condition asymmetry. Flap tracks. Check.
Okay, so we are going to get to the...
Aileron and tab. Check.
Okay, stop. And let's go to the before engine start checklist. Okay, I think you get the gist. I was getting a little bit too much now, really. It's great though. I mean, it is a great feature. It's just, I wouldn't do this every flight. Okay, I'm going to take out the checklist for myself. And now let's, the exterior condition we have checked. So everything is okay. The flaps are, by the way, still out. So let's bring them in again. we're going to now very quickly prepare the aircraft. So let me see. We do have electricity, we have the external power, and so in theory, so why do we see this thing here? Something missing probably. Cabin pressure dump test. Let's turn the yaw damper off for the moment. Okay. So why don't I see this thing here? RA test course. Radar test, suppose. So, aha. Nope. Took a moment. Okie dokie. Then, flight plan. Origin is Echo Delta Delta Mike. Not in database again. So this is a bit weird. Can we now? Echo Delta Delta Mike. To Echo Delta Delta Mike. Alright. We are flying from direct to Akini is our, Anchor is our exit point for the departure. Then we are flying Akini. Then Ostis. Then a Bamta. Bamta being the entry point for our arrival. Okay, execute. Now I'm going here, departure, 08 left. And we're going Anchor 9 Quebec. Execute. And we're going arrival, ILS 08 left. And we're coming via the Bamta 4 Alpha 408 left. Invalid entry clear. Yeah, I forgot. It's always the other way around here. That's a bit of a speciality. Bamta, taking the ILS, and we're coming in via MIQ. Execute. So let's have a look at the legs. Akini, Ostis, Bamta, Rosap, Bingo. Yes. So climb, transition altitude 5,000. I don't think we're going to climb with 250. We're climbing with something like 170. Can I put this in? Hang on. Target speed. I'm clicking the wrong one here. 170. Then our cruise speed is something like 250. And our descent speed is slash 250. It's not possible. 550 or something like that. Nope, I can't change this. Maybe I can change it here. 250. Nope. Well, anyway. Transition altitude 5,000. Alrighty. And in cruise, we are going to flight level 200 or 20,000. Okie dokie, legs. Yeah, it's calculating something here. Okay. It's based on 1800 feet per minute, I think. So that is it. Then COM1 is 122.8. And NAV1 is 10950. No idea why I needed the dot here and here not. Course is 080. Okay, so that gives us the ILS frequency. It's a very basic setup. This is all standard X-plane. There's nothing fancy with this one. And that means we are definitely ready to go. Legs. Okay, let's put the legs on. So we have our autopilot set up, and that means we can go now through this checklist for the before start engine.
Exterior condition.
Yeah,
Checked.
is checked.
Air stair door.
Hang on. We need to close that. And I'm going to take away the
Locked.
chocks as well.
Cabin loading. Secure. Passenger briefing. Complete. Instrument emergency lights. Nighttime. As required. Parking brake. Set. Control locks.
I've removed them, finally.
Removed and stowed. Oxygen system pre-flight. Complete. Pilot's instrument panel. Check. Pilot's gyro.
Gyro? Wouldn't you call that gyro? So, where is that? Slaved. Yeah, great. Gyro slaving. Ah, yeah, it's mode.
Slaved. Standby horizon if installed. Check. Battery bus. Confirm normal. Engine anti-ice.
Engine anti-ice is
On.
The
Inverters. Off.
Or it should be off, yeah.
Avionics master.
What happens? Do I lose my...
Off.
Probably lose my whole flight plan.
External power switch.
Really now?
Off. Auto feather. Off. Auto ignition. Off. Landing gear control. Down. Landing gear control relay. Check in. Clock control wheel. Check and set. External lights.
They're all on.
On and as required. Ice protection.
That was probably for the walk around, which we
Off.
didn't do.
Power levers.
Are they in the ground idle? No, they're not. And that's actually one of those issues that I had so far, because it is very difficult. I think that's ground idle. But,
Ground idle. Prop levers.
fully forward.
Full forward. Condition levers.
Fuel cutoff.
Fuel cutoff. EFIS power if installed.
Yeah, but if we turn EFIS power off, we will probably have to enter the flight plan again. Ah, well.
Off. Cabin pressure switch. Press.
I'm not even sure
Pitch
which
trim.
one they are.
On. Rudder boost switch. Rudder boost. Passenger manual dropout. Confirm pushed off. System ready.
Oxygen controls, confirm, whatever that means. Yeah, it's on.
Confirm on. Window defog. Off. Vent blower.
The vent blower. Hello, Mr. Vent blower. Where are you? Vent blower. Auto position.
Auto. Cabin temp mode. Off. Environmental bleed air. Low. Bleed air valves. Anveer off.
Anveer off.
Aft blower. Off. Electric heat.
Off.
Off.
Aft heat.
Aft heat. As required. Copilot's instrument panel. Check. Copilot's gyro. Slaved out. Clock control wheel. Check and set. Alternate static source.
Huh?
Normal.
Not that I would...
Right
down
circuit
here.
breaker panel.
It's a bit well hidden.
Check.
Yeah.
Battery.
I don't think you can
On.
do the breakers. Or maybe you can.
Voltmeters.
Voltmeters, check. Voltmeters check. 23 DC minimum.
Check 23 volts DC minimum. Cockpit lights.
Yeah, they are as desired.
As desired. Mic switches. Normal. Cabin lights. Off. Furnishing switch. Off.
I didn't know we have furnitures on board.
Fasten seat belt sign. On.
Now they want it on.
Annunciators. Test. Standby pumps.
They want them
Off.
off. Crossfeed off.
Crossfeed. Off. Auxiliary transfer switches. Auto. Circuit breakers. In. Fuel quantity.
I think I need to
Check.
confirm this myself, yeah.
Before starting engines checklist. Complete.
Okay, so now let's start with the right
Gem
engine.
ties, nighttime. Manual close. Engine anti-ice. On. Right engine. Start. Right propeller area. Clear. Right ignition and engine start switch.
Hang on. Right ignition, engine start switch. Right ignition. Where's the ignition? Engine auto ignition. Ign start. I'm a bit confused here. So this is the start button. This is the ignition.
Ignition and engine start. Right condition lever.
Looking good. Yeah, I have them all on the same lever. That's why this is okay. This is not quite realistic. So we need to put that on low idle. Just not sure where low idle is.
Low idle. Right ITT. Monitor.
Yeah, it looks good.
Right oil pressure.
Oil pressure is, I think down here. Yeah, there in the green. Okay, continue.
Right condition lever.
High idle, yeah.
High idle.
That doesn't really work now.
Right ignition and engine start switch.
Off. And engine start
Off.
switch off.
Right generator.
Reset, then
Reset, then on. Voltmeter. Right generator, 28 volts DC. Battery. Charge.
how do I
Left
see
engine.
that? Mhm.
Start. Left propeller area. Clear. Left ignition and engine start switch. Ignition and engine start. Left condition lever.
That's a bit of a problem. See that? Because I have them on one axis. So I think that worked.
Low idle.
ITT looks okay.
Left ITT. Monitor. Left oil pressure. Check.
I need to figure something out with that.
Left ignition and engine start switch.
Off, off.
Off. Voltmeter. Left generator, 28 volts DC. Left generator. Reset, then on. Right generator. Reset, then on. Right condition lever. Low idle. Propeller levers. Full forward. Propeller RPM.
1050
minimum.
RPM. Where are the RPM?
Prop pitch annunciators.
Yeah, obviously there were. Prop pitch annunciators illuminated. Pitch trim, oxy. What? Prop what? Prop pitch annunciators illuminated. I'm not sure why, what, and how, because I can't see that. Air, auto feather, pitch trim, oxy, external power, pitot heat. Left end. No, that's anti-ice. These should be illuminated. Okay. I'm not sure why they are not illuminated. But they don't seem illuminated. Am I missing something? Well,
Illuminated. Engine starting. Battery checklist. Complete.
Okay. I think we can turn on the avionics again. And we can remove the external power. Yeah. So that should leave us now completely. Yeah. So for some reason though, we don't have avionics because something is missing. Let's turn on the inverters. Battery bus is on. Alrighty. Sure. Yeah. We need to turn these fellas on, and now we need to check if our flight plan is still there. That's explained. Okay. I should have probably done this after I started the engines, and now we have to wait that this thing comes back. I'm guessing it will align at some point. I hope. So this one is here, this one is not yet. Just going to wait a wee moment. Oh, this is all in automatic. There's no... Okay. Yeah, we still don't seem to have... Let's go to the before taxi checklist.
Switch.
So the generator tie switches. Engine anti-ice. Are these those here? No, here. To open. Is that open? Yeah. Gen ties, manual close. Yeah, open.
Open. Voltmeter.
Observe center bus.
Check. Gen tie switch.
Normal.
Normal. Bus sense switch. Test momentary. Voltmeter. Check. Bus sense switch.
Reset.
Reset. Voltmeter. Check.
Okay, center has voltage. Okay.
Bus selector switch.
TPL fed.
Triple fed.
TLP.
Master panel
TPL.
and cockpit lights. As desired. Environmental system. Set.
Whatever that means.
Inverters 2.
Checked.
On. Check.
On, yeah.
Avionics master switch.
I think you need to leave these open here, otherwise the switches are turned off.
FMS. Verify and accept.
Yep.
EFIS power switches. On. Flaps.
Are up.
Up. Exterior lights. As required. Flight and engine instruments. Check. Cabin lights. As desired. Furnishing switch. As desired. Annunciators. Test and normal. Flight controls. Free and correct.
I hope they are.
Flight instruments. No flags. Brakes.
Release. Test.
Release and test. Before taxi checklist. Complete.
So, okay, that's it for the first part. We are basically ready now to get going. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the simulation and I'm going to use this feature to save this state. So I will call it pre-taxi, because one of the things I want to test, and we will find out in the second part if that worked out, is if I for some reason the simulator stops, although I intend not to stop it, because after a short break for me, I'm going to continue with this flight in the second part of this try and fly. Then I will see if for some reason I need to reload the flight. Will it actually reload the same way? So actually I should really do this completely from scratch and see what happens. If it didn't work out, you will know, because then I will have to set up everything again, and then I will tell you what that was. I'm also going to save the flight as such, as a situation, and yeah, just in case, so that I also have to write the same time and all, if that isn't set by this special situation load of the Kingair. Yeah, we shall see how that works out, and that will be part of the second part. Until then, thank you for watching, and see you soon.